the holidays coming up. So if you're joining us on Facebook, I would love if you would tag some of your oil loving friends to join us tonight. If you are joining us on Zoom, thank you and welcome. So we are going to talk tonight about emotions and essential oils and holidays and this year in particular and stress and all of the things, because let's face it, this has been a year that our oils are so powerful and so needed. So before I jump into talking about different oils, I really wanted to start with the basics and understanding what it is that happens in our bodies and why we use essential oils to support emotions. Because if you're new to this idea, it sounds a little crazy. Like, what in the world? How is an essential oil going to affect emotions? And aren't emotions just feelings? And where do they come from? And how do I manage that? And how do I deal with that? Well, let's break this down and keep it really simple. First of all, we know that emotions are processed throughout your body, right? We feel them in our three brains. They're in our mind, in our logic and intellect. They are in our heart, in our intuition, and they are in our gut as gut feelings. Those are the three places that we feel emotions. And the three brains communicate with each other. They give feedback to and from, and they influence one another. This is all happening because we are a being that is full of intellectual cells. These cells work together to create a body that we think of as just physical. But those cells also create all of the magic that is our emotions. And emotions are just information carrying molecules that bind to and react with cell receptors. They go into the cell and they impact the function and the behavior. So what does that mean? That means that sometimes our emotions manifest in physical ways. And sometimes what we're feeling and we can't quite put into words, our body is expressing for us. You know, this is one of these ideas that I learned from Natalie Goddard, that you instinctively process life's experience, right? So you have an experience. Maybe it's a joyful experience. Maybe it's a sad experience, but you go through something and create this experience. And as you're processing it, you're thinking about, how do I figure this out? What do I do with this information? How is this information serving me? You're also processing how you feel. Are you feeling joyful? Are you scared? Are you sad? Are you overwhelmed? And down in your gut, you feel that, like, I'm stuck, or maybe it's, I have got to get out of here, or I need to eat more pie. You know, let's face it, our body is talking to us as we're processing the experiences that we go through. And then we have a reaction. And that reaction could become head tension. It could become conflicted feelings or an upset stomach. Or if you're me, I carry a lot of my tension in my shoulders and I get strain and pain and discomfort, and it's horrible. And more often than not, I can take a quick evaluation of my body and go, yeah, my shoulders are tight. Yes, I feel all this tension here. What I really need is to take some deep breaths, and I need to relax, and I need to calm my body down and give my body permission to feel safe and to relax. And when I can do that, I create the physical relaxation that relieves those issues. Now, there's so much that we can do just listening to our bodies and connecting that mind, that heart, and that gut instinct together to work through emotions. But let's face it, we have amazing tools at our disposal. Most of us have lots of oils lying around. And whether or not you've ever used your oils for an emotional relief before, we're going to learn how to do that tonight. So first of all, if you're on Facebook, I would love for you to put in the chat which oil you have closest to you. Look around, grab an oil. If there's lots of them, just randomly grab one of them and pull out an oil. I pulled out an oil. If you're on Zoom, you can put that in the chat box as well. Which oil is close to you? What can you grab? If you're comfy and cozy, don't get up and get one. But if you can, grab an oil. And whether you even look at the label or not, I'd love for you to take it and take a smell of it. And just take that one breath. Now, once you've taken a smell of it, If you know that it's a safe oil to use topically, in other words, you didn't randomly instinctively grab oregano, put a drop in your hand. And then take a deeper breath. It is amazing the reaction that you can have with just a single breath of a drop of essential oil. Now, some of you may have grabbed an oil like me that you love the smell of, and instantly you take a breath and you can feel things relax. You can feel your heart lighten. You can feel joy abound. Maybe you grabbed an oil that you're like, oh, I'm not loving the way it smells, but I'm going to do what I was told and I'm going to take a deep breath. And you realize, you know what? Even if I don't love the way this one smells, I'm feeling how it's affecting my body. And that is what we're going to talk about tonight. How do these oils work with our body? And we're not going to get into the science tonight. We're not going to go behind the scenes as to why they affect our bodies. We're going to work on the assumption that they do affect our bodies. And if you want to know more about the hows and the whys, check out our YouTube channel. The eoLIFE YouTube channel has tons of videos, tons of classes that we've taught, and many of those go into the hows and the whys and the science and all that good juicy stuff. But tonight we're going to forget all of that, and we're going to tune into what our own body is calling us for and what we're listening to. So I find it really ironic that I have a tub of oil sitting beside me. It's my overstock because my oil bag is on the floor beside me. And these are oils that I have that are open that just didn't fit anywhere else, and I leave them so I don't forget them. And the one oil that I knew tonight that I wanted to talk to you guys about, that I wanted to share, because we're talking about emotions at the holiday time. And so of course, I need to talk about holiday joy. Now, I had no idea that's the oil that was there. I was actually afraid I was going to grab geranium because that's also sitting in there. But how perfect is that we're talking holiday joy very, very first. Now, when I'm looking at an oil and I'm using it for an emotional purpose, the first thing I want to do is just breathe it in and smell it and acknowledge how I'm feeling. For me, when I smell holiday joy, I instantly feel warm. I feel safe. I feel like I'm in a cozy space and that I can have connection. That's the best word that comes to me with holiday joy, is connection. Now, when I break down the oils that are in holiday joy, you have some oils that, generally speaking, wouldn't be ones that you might use a lot, like the cinnamon or the cassia. Many people don't have those on hand, or they're not oils that we grab frequently. But both of those oils are those warming spices that I feel just put a hug around you. And in holiday joy, we do have nutmeg, which is an oil we don't have available individually, but we're able to embrace that in this blend. So when I take those oils and I know what I know about the different oils, I can look at it and go, okay, what is cassia teaching me? What does cinnamon have to offer? What am I going to get from that? Now, if you're like me, you have an amazing book. It's the Emotions and Essential Oils book. And I will say that,
Stacey,
yeah.
it was about a minute ago. It kind of felt like you bumped something and then your sound changed dramatically. You
Is that
sound
better?
you sound far away and it's got kind of like this weird buzzy thing going on in the background.
Is that better?
It is. Yay.
Hey, thank you for interrupting and telling me that. I will go back and just recap some of that.
Yeah, I was like, wait, maybe it'll go away, but then.
Nope. I put
Okay.
my notes on top of my computer and it probably blocked the speaker. So.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So great. What I was saying is when we grab an oil like the Holiday Joy, and I'm starting to look at the oils in it, and I see cassia and I see cinnamon and I see nutmeg, I know that these are spices. They're warming, they're soothing, they're comforting. And then after I look at some of the oils and I identify their personalities, and this is something we've talked about at other classes, that getting to know your oils, it's amazing to grab your resource books and just read about them. It's a great way to learn of what they can do, what their properties are, maybe what their chemistry is. But really, I encourage you to get to know your oils without the books, without the resources, and develop a personal relationship with them. And for me, Holiday Joy is one of those oils that, depending on the year and depending on the time of the year, I'm drawn to it in different ways. Now, if you want to kind of confirm how you feel about it, and I'll come back to that idea in a minute, or you want to look up different things, the Emotions and Essential Oils book is a great resource just to talk about the emotions. To me, this is like the dating website of essential oils where you get to know about them and how they feel and how they're going to interact and what they're going to do. It's not about the physical properties, but it's about who that oil is. And when I look up Holiday Joy, and some of the things that come to mind with the Emotions book is that it's a joy centered oil. It's all about celebration. It fosters feelings of joy and cheer and celebration. One of the other things that the Emotions book talks about is that Holiday Joy is an oil that helps you set up boundaries. It helps with rifts, maybe, or things that aren't going so well with a relationship, but it doesn't help in a way that it's going to be off putting, but more open you up and support you as you explore how to move through that. And those boundaries and those things that we're looking at are where we get to tune into our bodies and find out what it is that we can do. Now, this year, I feel more than ever, there are so many different emotions that we are facing. Many people, when it comes to the holidays, have similar feelings year after year. And for some people, those are feelings of joy and peace and love and excitement because you're spending time, you know, with your family, you're spending time celebrating, you're spending time doing activities that break your normal, everyday routine. But for some people, the holidays bring out other feelings. They bring out these feelings of fear, or maybe they don't feel safe, or maybe they're feeling sadness or grief because they are, again, feeling what's happening in the season. Maybe they're missing loved ones who have passed on, or maybe they come together with family and it's not a happy and pleasant situation. And whatever it is that comes out with the holidays, I feel like across the globe, we all universally feel more. Our emotions are more intense. They're more on top of mind. We talk about them more. When you're in the holiday season, you meet people and it's all about good cheer and glad tidings and how are you feeling? And, when you meet somebody in the middle of the summer, we don't have those same conversations. So we're just, first of all, in a season, an environment where emotions are more prevalent. And it's good to be aware of that, because if you're aware of how you are feeling, you're aware of where you're going with things, you can be prepared. Because like we were talking about at the very, very beginning, our emotions are just cells reacting to what's happening in our body. And we are not victim to that. We don't have to just sit back and wait to see, like, oh, how am I going to react to this today? When you have the awareness of how you're feeling, and when you have the ability to tap into your own emotions, you can be preventative. You can be intentional. You can be intuitive about how you want to feel and not just react to what happens around you and what you do feel. Now, I realize that there are times where no matter how hard you try, you're just going to be happy and you can't stop that. So let's not try. But there's also times where maybe you are really angry and you have a right, it's a justifiable, righteous anger. And yet you want to put that to rest. You don't want to walk through life with anger. So what can you do? We know from a mindset perspective that you can journal. If you're spiritual, you can pray, you can meditate, you can move your body to help get some of that negative energy released. From an oil perspective, we can use the oils to be intentional about how we want to feel. And that means for me, if I am feeling a lot of anger, I tend to gravitate towards citrus oils, because citrus oils are uplifting and they're energizing. And Dr. Hill once told me that it's impossible, like physically impossible, to be angry if you were smelling wild orange. Now, if I pull out the Emotions book, I can tap into that and read all about how wild orange is the oil of abundance. It's the oil of joy. So when you're looking at something like smelling the wild orange or wearing it or diffusing it in a environment that is tense or that there's anger, it's going to help balance. It's going to work through that body chemistry as you're inhaling it. It's going through your amygdala in your brain, and it's changing your body at a cellular level so you can have more power and more control over how you are feeling. Now, one of my greatest tools when we're talking about emotions is this really cool emotions and essential oil wheel. And I believe, honestly, that you can get this at Aromatouch or eoLIFE. I can't even remember where I got it because I've had it for so long. But this is a great tool. You can see on here that you can look up an emotion, how you're feeling. And when you look at how you're feeling, I'm trying to see which way it works for you guys. You can look and say, okay, if I'm feeling sadness, holidays, how many of us feel sadness? We are all missing somebody. And this year in particular, when so many families are not able to gather together or to join around for church or for the family dinner or those Christmas celebrations, and the sadness creeps in, take a moment to acknowledge that and to embrace that emotion, because it's there to teach you something and it's there to tell you something. But also maybe grab your Lang Lang oil or your citrus bliss. Sometimes even breathe. Breathe is an amazing oil for grief and for sadness. And it's not surprising when you look at breathe and how it works in your body physically, it's all about giving you a breath. It's about opening your airways. It's about supporting your respiratory system. And isn't it ironic that on an emotional level, breathe is going to help you to open up and to take a deeper breath? It's one of those oils that I have often used, especially with children when they are sobbing uncontrollably, because let's face it, sometimes their little lives just crumble and fall apart because they kicked the wrong rock or because something silly happened and they're just in a puddle. And I don't know about you, but this mama heart sometimes just has to say, get over it. I can't handle it. But I'm also tender and compassionate. And I go, if I don't have what it takes to be compassionate over this little meltdown, my breathe oil will help me. And I put the breathe oil on me and I hug my daughter and I let her just cry into me about all the woes of the world. And before she knows it, she's able to take enough of a breath. The breathe has supported her emotionally where she literally stops sobbing enough to take those breaths. And in those breaths, I can whisper into her ear that she is safe, that she is loved, that she is okay, that that silly rock will come back, whatever it is that is going on. And breathe is one of those oils that right now in this season, I feel like we should be relying on more and more, because how often are we out in the world and either we are covered up with a mask or we are hiding behind feelings because of a mask or because of a situation or because of an opinion. And we just need to stop and take a breath. And we need to acknowledge that we're okay and we're in a safe place and allow that breathe oil to open up your heart and open up your lungs so you can inhale and enjoy what is around you, even if it's in the midst of turmoil. That oil is going to teach you a lesson. And it's not just about supporting you when you have a respiratory issue. It's about supporting you when you need a breath in life or when you need to just take that next step. We also know that when you're feeling feelings like anger, and I have had a few days like this in the last couple months where I am not an angry person. It's one of those things that I have always been told is so unhealthy. And Stacey, why don't you get mad? You should be mad. This should really enrage you. And I just don't work that way. But I've had some of those feelings lately going, whether it's feeling injustice, whether it's feeling angry at the situation, whether I'm feeling angry because I don't have control of a situation, and knowing that I choose not to live in anger. And yet those feelings are there. They're brought about to teach me something. So again, I want to acknowledge when I feel these things, even if they're not the best feelings. But then I want to go to my oils and give myself the support to move through that, not necessarily to ignore it, not to mask it, but to help my body process on a cellular level what I'm feeling in a very emotional level. And some of the best oils for anger are oils actually like HD Clear and thyme, and what is the women's blend? Women's blend is whisper. I'm like, sorry, brain freeze. Whisper and cardamom. And many of you have seen on some of our Facebook pages, I've been talking a lot lately about loving my cardamom in my coffee. And it wasn't until I was preparing for tonight's class and pulling out my trusty wheel where I was like, what is cardamom anyway? Like, for in this respect, I use it for all sorts of things physically. Cardamom is one of the best oils for flat out angry feelings. And I was like, how interesting that over the last few weeks where I've had days of feeling completely overwhelmed with the situation, that I'm naturally drawn to putting the cardamom back in my coffee and starting my day with a little cardamom. So it's amazing that when you're using the oils for emotional support, most often we think of putting that drop in the palm of your hands and inhaling it, or we think of putting it in the diffuser so you're breathing it in. But even if you're using the oils internally, or even if you're using them topically, like on your toe, you can still get that emotional benefit from using that oil in that way. Now, we're also going to look a little bit at right now, fear comes into play for a lot of people during the holidays, and this year in particular, because they're maybe afraid to gather with family, or maybe they're afraid not to gather with family, or maybe they're afraid to say where they stand, or if they are, or if they're not. And we're not going to get into that because the reality is we each are dealing with these emotions in our own way. But when you have feelings of fear creeping in, when you're uncertain or you're unsure and your guard is feeling like it has to go up, let's pull out our oils like wild orange and geranium. Let's pull out our lavender and our juniper berry. Whether you put those in a diffuser blend together, whether you just take a drop and inhale it, that's going to help give you a feeling of security, stability, and to release some of that fear. These are all emotions that I think when we talk about this time of year, it's so easy to assume everything is joyful and cheerful and happy because it's Christmas. It's Christmas. And how can we not just embrace all the joy of the season? But I don't know about you, but me, when I'm feeling happy, when I am full of joy, I don't often need an oil to help lift me up. I don't need an oil to bring that feeling about because it comes about. I want to look for those times where I'm looking for where I'm not feeling how I want to feel and pull out the oils to help me then. Because if you're having a joyful moment, just embrace it and enjoy it. It's when you're having those moments where joy is hard to find that we want to pull out our oils. And that's another one. If you are looking for more joy, if you are maybe faking it through the season because you want to be the joy bringer to your family or to your friends, you want to shed the light, but somehow this time it's just harder to feel that, make yourself a personal perfume, whether it's a spray bottle, whether it's a roller bottle, whether you take an empty essential oil bottle that you have lying around and make your own blend of either just pure oils or the oils with some coconut oil. Make a personal blend that you can keep in your pocket to roll on or reapply throughout the day to bring that joy about. Now, joy oils are pretty much any of the citrus oils, but specifically lime and tangerine and wild orange come to mind as far as bringing up joy. And lime is specifically great this time of year because it's an oil to help you feel grateful. And let's face it, no matter how hard things are or can get, we all have so much to be grateful for. And sometimes that's easy to acknowledge. And sometimes it takes a little bit of work or keeping that gratitude journal to remember all the blessings that you do have in your life. And lime is going to just help you to remember to be grateful and to bring that up. And the other thing about lime and being grateful is remembering that when you can acknowledge and put words to gratitude, it changes how you think. It changes your mind. And even when you might be having days where the last thing you feel is grateful for the crappy situation you find yourself in, You can change that. You have the power to grab your oil, to do some journaling, to pray, to meditate, to think on that. And I promise if you can find 5 or 10 things that you're really grateful for, and let me tell you, just as a side note, gratitude doesn't always have to be that you have money or you have a house or you have a family. Sometimes my gratitude journal is full of the silliest things, like I am grateful that I have a park I can go and swing at in the rain. I am grateful that I can run around barefoot in a puddle. I am grateful that I have a cozy sweater that my dad left behind when he passed away that I still can cuddle up to. It's those little things that I dig deep sometimes to find, what am I grateful for? And there have been times in my life where I can't necessarily say that I had a great roof over my head, or that I had money in the bank, or that I had those things that everybody wants to be grateful for. But I have always had things that I could find to be grateful for, even in the worst situation, because I was breathing. If you can write a gratitude journal, it means that you are breathing. And that is something to be glad for, because you have a purpose. You have a mission. You have something that you haven't completed yet. So you get to still be here and you get to be alive and you get to share that. So no matter how hard it is, find what you're grateful for. Pull out your lime oil, carry that around, and remember to bring the joy into the season. Another one of the classic holiday feelings and emotions that we all talk about and want is peace. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm finding it oddly harder and harder this year to find people who feel at peace. Whether it's because there's been an election, or whether it's, environmental things happening, whether it's this crazy pandemic, peace seems to be something that is eluding many of us and many of our friends. And we can accept that and we can say we'll never feel peace again, or we can take control of that and change that. Again, there are a lot of things out of our control right now, but you get to control you, and you get to control how you react to these things, and you get to decide how you're going to show up and how you're going to serve the people around you. And if you want to bring peace into a situation, that's the first step. Now, the oils that will help you with that peace are some of my favorite. Past tense, obviously, right? We're getting rid of tension. What's more peaceful than getting rid of tension? Um, the massage blend or Aromatouch is a peaceful blend. It helps people to feel relaxed. And oddly, bring in your In Tune oil. The In Tune oil is going to help you be present in the moment. And when we are present in the moment, truly present in a moment, we can't be worrying about the stress that led us here. We can't be worrying about the past. We can't be feeling anxiety over the future, because we're right here in the moment, in the present. So using that In Tune blend to help you stay focused and to stay present in the moment can be a real powerhouse. The other ones that come into this peaceful feelings are vetiver and patchouli and balance. These are all rich, earthy, lovely oils. I would add the Northern Escape blend that we just received into that pile. I haven't seen any of the emotion books on it yet. I haven't seen any of the energetic readings, but I know, just because I've smelled the oil, you can't help but know it is going to bring peace. So I would love right now, before I move on to the next thing, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're on Facebook, to drop into the comments one feeling that you have been struggling with, so I know where to help move forward for the rest of our time, and one oil that you have used lately, maybe like in the last couple of weeks, that has helped you to feel empowered on some emotional level, because the experiences that you have had are going to help teach other people. And I'm only one person sharing the class tonight, so my experiences will only resonate with some of you. But if all of those participating in our class tonight or over the next few days who watch this put in the comments an oil that has helped support you and with what emotion, we are going to start a ripple effect of being able to support our community and find new oils and new ways to be on top of our emotional health. And while you're doing that, I'm going to take a quick drink so I don't lose my voice. I think it's also really imperative and interesting to say that, again, listening to and tuning into your body, I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, more and more often, my eyes are really blurry. My eyes, I've never had huge issues with my eyes, but I've had problems with being able to focus on things. And I've also found that I'm having more and more issues with my voice, not necessarily throat, but my voice. When I'm talking, it's getting harder to get what I want to say out. And when I stop and I pause and I listen to my body and go, what is that telling me? Well, then I can pull out oils and books. Two of my favorites are Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die, and You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hayes. Now, when I look through these books, I find it ironic and maybe completely in tune that not having clear focus often is an idea of not having clarity in the future. And I was like, wow, how profound is that? I mean, how do I have clarity when I'm living in a time and in a world where I'm not sure what's happening day to day? And then I look up this voice thing and go, I'm getting impatient, I'm getting frustrated, and I feel like I'm being told to shut down. And so my body is responding to that in a way that is manifesting physically. And yet I can look to that and go, okay, if I know that some of this is coming because I'm feeling impatient, then I'm going to look at my wheel here and find where is it that it talks about being impatient. And when I'm talking about being impatient, which oil? And of course, now that I say that, I can't find it. I'll look for it and tell you in a minute. But pulling out the wheel and being able to say, okay, this is what's happening, and I don't want that. So I'm going to look to the opposite, and I'm going to find how I can support my body to move past that emotion or move into the next one. When I'm looking at like clarity, on the emotional wheel, it does talk about clarity, and some of the oils that are so great for that are oils like lemon and lemongrass and spearmint and rosemary and Douglas fir, all of these beautiful oils that help to bring about confident speech and wisdom and courage. And when I pull out those oils and I start diffusing them, or I apply them topically on my heart, or I just breathe them in, I can overcome what's holding me back. And this is something that doesn't take years and years to learn. This isn't something that I have been able to do because I've been sharing doTERRA for almost 10 years. It's because I picked up an oil and I listened to my body and I tried it. So whether you have years of experience and you can rattle off the chemistry of every single oil in your kit, and whether you know exactly which oil to use for whatever health you have, or whether you are brand new and you're opening your first bottle of oil with us tonight, trust that you know enough to support your body, and that you know enough to listen to your intuition and connect that mind, body, soul being into one person, into one healthy being. And you can use these oils to bring about the emotions that you want. Now, if you don't have an emotional wheel and you're like, I'm not going to buy one more thing, first of all, you can find this online as well. And I have to look at where it is, but they do have some of these, like on Google, you can find some of the images that share some things about it. But you can also, again, go back to what you know about the oils. When you're talking about tree oils, you're talking about feeling grounded. You're talking about feeling balanced. So although maybe, you look at the wheel and you pick out a specific thing like feeling unsupported, saying you want a birch oil. Well, that's fantastic if you have the resource. And if you don't have that, know that if you are feeling unsupported, if you're feeling like you're just kind of floundering and you want to feel grounded, pull out a tree oil, any tree oil. If you are feeling like you are just stuck in the mud and you can't move and you don't know how to go anywhere, you can't move forward, Find a citrus oil, any citrus oil. It's going to be uplifting. It's going to be energizing. It's going to help you to move forward. And that is a great way to do that. If you're looking for just needing comfort, if you want to feel that comfort and that love, pull out a floral oil. Nothing, no oil we have is going to say, I love you, like rose and jasmine and magnolia, even geranium. As much as I'm not a huge fan, that oil is a powerhouse and it can bring about those feelings of security and comfort because having your floral oils is off the charts. Rosie, you turned your camera on, so I'm guessing you have something to add in here.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay. I know this is being recorded and I'm just going to go ahead and be totally transparent here. So I have a filling that I'm pretty sure has failed, right? You know how you've had it for a couple decades and it kind of bugs you for a while and you keep going, oh, I'll just have them check it next time I'm in. And then one day, you can't wait any longer. So that happened yesterday. And so I'm going in tomorrow morning. So when we think toothache, what do we reach for? Like we know physically reach for clove, right? And so I am always willing to learn at the feet of all of you. And as Stacy's talking, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to look up teeth in Louise Hay's Heal Your Body book, right? And I look up teeth and it says represents decisions.
Wow.
Okay, so now just here's one more layer of go ahead and just look at Rosie really, really transparently. Long-standing indecisiveness, inability to break down ideas for analysis and decisions. Like ideation is my number 2, you guys. I have a problem. I have too many ideas all the time, 24/7, right? Not only that, we do have a decision we're trying to make with our family in Christmas, right? Like that has just, I kid you not, yesterday morning, one of our kids reached out to us and proposed a concept for Christmas. And we need to decide, like in the next yesterday, you know? And so then I pulled up this. This is the old one. It just happens to be what I had down here. This is not the newest one, but I figured it would serve me well enough because it was close, right? When I looked up indecision, what came up was lemon. Oh, I was going to remember you guys. It was lemon and peppermint for being indecisive. When I looked up decisive, it's lemon and clove. It's lemon and clove. Do you guys see that connection between? Okay, now if you don't actually have this book, I know Stacy talked about this one. I think is the condensed one, the newer condensed one. There's a fatter version as well, which is what she's got. The beautiful thing is not only does it help you look at the thing and what that potential emotional connection could be, then it gives you an affirmation. So as I'm using my clove and my lemon, I can be saying, I make my decisions based on principles of truth, and I rest securely knowing that only right action is taking place in my life. Right? So it works. You guys, it really works.
I love that. Thank you, Rosie. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we tend to look at our bodies as these compartments of physical or emotional. And the power we have when we learn to pull it together is amazing. And I know some people are like, that's a little crazy. You know, in my outside doTERRA world, I get that's a little voodoo weird. I'm like, but it works.
You do have a Facebook comment, so let me throw this in right now too. It's Coral. Hi, Coral. And she says, I am feeling grief from the loss of being able to celebrate and celebrate with others in person.
Oh, Coral, I feel you. I feel you so hard. In fact, I was dealing with that a lot over Thanksgiving because in my family, it's usually a huge gathering. And this year, it was not. And then today, literally, as I was prepping for the class, I took a break to look up and see if any of the traditions that I have done with my daughter, and before I did doTERRA, well, even while I was doing doTERRA, I've been a nanny professionally for like 20 some years. So I have some Christmas traditions that I have done for over 20 years with kids in my life that I love, like going down to Seattle and seeing the giant gingerbread villages or the teddy bear suite. I have traditions that have been part of me for longer than I've been a mother. And this year, looking them up and seeing one thing after another, that's just, it's not even an option. There's not even a way to make it work, was really hard. And I may have shed a few tears going, grief, what am I losing? And really, yeah, in the grand scheme, those traditions can pick up next year. And I'm grateful that I have the time to do different things in my home, because that is one of the things I've always wanted, to be at home and be able to make a giant gingerbread village at home. But I've been a nanny and I work a lot and I homeschool, and we're not, like, we are on the go. And so this year it has provided some opportunities. So I pulled back to that gratitude, like I talked about a little bit earlier, and pulling back that breathe oil to just stop and take a breath and remember what I'm grateful for. And at the same time, to acknowledge that, yes, we are missing things, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to grieve those traditions and those things that we're missing, especially when those things are people and family and opportunities with family. But we can also be prepared and be preventative. I know for myself, there are certain days that I need to start my day before the weight of missing out on something hits. I need to start my diffuser. This year, one of those days was the day after Christmas. I mean, the day after Thanksgiving, which is traditionally a day where I'm with my family. And I knew when I woke up, I was feeling okay. Like, things were different. I knew that I was going to be okay. But I instinctively went to my diffuser and I put in breathe, and I put in green mandarin, and I actually put in a drop of Melissa. But coming back to that later in the day, as the day wore on, as we're decorating, for Christmas and pulling out decorations, and nothing felt right. Nothing felt like Christmas. My family wasn't around. There wasn't hot fudge or chocolate being made, or none of that was happening. But I knew before what I needed and how to support my body. So as the reality of the day was hitting, I was able to feel supported, and it didn't get to that deep, dark grief that I know it would have had I not been prepared ahead of time. So that's, the idea of making a personal blend to carry around with you, whether that is a grief blend or a joy blend or an anger blend or shame. That's another one that we're seeing so much, because it doesn't matter where you stand on any of the issues facing our country right now, whether it's political or religious or about the pandemic, there are people who have very, very strong opposing views. And there's a lot of people feeling very shamed or ashamed of how they feel, or holding back how they feel because they're being judged, whether it's online and social media, or whether it's in your own family with different people having different approaches and views on how we handle this. But when we stop and look at the fact that we can't change those situations, we can't just wave a magic wand and say, okay, this is all going to go away, or we're all going to agree, or if I just show you the right research or the right story or the right whatever, you're going to change your mind and we're going to agree. Chances are that's not going to happen right now. But you can choose how you are going to react. You can choose how prepared you are going to be, and pull out the tools that you want to support your body. So before you step into those situations, you come from a place of supported, and it's not going to make the pain go away, and it's not going to stop you from feeling sadness, but you'll feel it in a different way, where you can feel it from a safe place, knowing that as sad as you are, you're going to be okay. Another book, I feel like I'm just selling books tonight, but another book that I love that really came heavily on my heart for tonight is this one. And it's called I Am Fabulous. Now, this is one that is all about different blends, and different blends for different reasons, but it takes you through the blend. Like, here's an example of one. It's the Say I'm Beautiful. And it gives you the recipe. It gives you a little bit about it, kind of like the emotions, but I have been pulling this one out more and more to remind myself of what I want. And there's a blend in here that I've been using the last couple of days, really drawn to, and it's called the Royalty Blend. Doesn't that just sound amazing? I'm royalty. We're all royalty. And this blend has some powerhouse oils on it. And I've been using it as my personal perfume. And it has really helped to be on top of how the emotions are. I am loving that I can pick out the blends that I need to support myself, whether it's one oil that I intuitively grab, whether I pull out a resource book and find a specific blend that I'm looking for. There are all these tools and all these resources available to you. And another thing, shameless plug, join the water cooler calls. These happen Friday mornings at 10 a.m. They also happen Thursdays with Christine at 6 p.m. right before this class. Those are great opportunities, especially if you don't have one of the books, if you don't know exactly what to do and you want to muddle through an idea or a thought. Those are free open calls for anyone to come and join and just ask your questions. And I bet there will be somebody else on the call who has the answer or who has the book, who can look it up and who can share information with you. So keep those opportunities in mind. If you're going, I'm not buying all those books, Stacy, you're crazy. If you don't have the books, if you don't have the wheel, if you don't have any of that, what do we say? Go back to your intuition, randomly grab an oil, listen to what your heart is calling you to, and be prepared. So I want to wrap up this evening with just a few thoughts. And we could talk emotions and oils all night long. We could talk about holiday emotions because, man, there are so many of them. But here's just a couple final thoughts and couple oils that I think are worth mentioning. We've talked a lot about citrus oils being uplifting and energizing. If you are someone who is struggling or you know someone who is struggling and finding that gratitude seems impossible, I'm going to encourage you to try the Elevation oil or Melissa. Melissa oil is the queen of these oils, and it's beautiful in that Melissa helps to be uplifting, and it really helps to encourage you and pull you out of dark spaces. Melissa is a little bit pricey though, so if you don't have that in your budget, look at Elevation, because Elevation is a beautiful blend. It's actually the joyful blend, and it has Melissa in there, so you can get the benefit of Melissa in a blend. That'll be great. I also think it's good to remember at this time, when you are constantly having things thrown at you, that we have oils that are amazing, that are just for boundaries. Did you know that Terra Shield, our bug repellent, is an amazing, amazing oil emotionally to help put up a barrier or a boundary against toxic people? I don't know about you, and I have none in my family because my family's amazing, right? But there are not always people in the world that are so amazing. So I have been known, especially lately, to put on a little Terra Shield in the middle of the winter before I go to the grocery store, because I am all about keeping those toxic people away from me. I don't have time to deal with that. So remember that. I mean, if they're in your home, if you're going to diffuse Terra Shield at a family gathering, I do encourage you to add like some frankincense and some wild orange so people don't wonder why you're diffusing bug spray in the middle of the winter. But you can cover it up and get the same idea. You can also use oils like Holiday Joy that do have that same safe boundary protective way to keep you safe in those situations. Use those oils, use your joyful blend, pull out your citrus bliss. That is another invigorating, very happy blend that can help you as you're looking for more joy and bringing cheer. And of course, don't forget that we have 6 amazing blends that are all just specifically created for emotional aromatherapy. And whether you want the Forgive blend or you want to bring about more cheer, whether you want a little bit more passion in your life because you want to feel excited about the season or what's coming next, those oils are great blends to keep you emotionally healthy.